you're doing this.
Alright.
Alright, how about now? Welcome to the TRE live show.
Yeah, can you guys hear us now? Let's see now.
Now they can hear us, but we have to keep talking this game.
We do have to keep...
If there's no sound going on, there's no sound going on.
I know, isn't this fun?
I always feel like whenever...
If someone still no sound, yes.
There we go.
Closing the door fixed it.
Yes, that's
Thank
right.
you.
Alright.
I saw your earlier comment and I was like, that is a sassy thing to say. He's like, I wonder if the sound is going to work. And I was like, what do you take us for, Andy?
Yeah.
And then I was like, nope, he's got us pretty pegged.
We try to get more complicated and it just messes things up.
Guys, we've been trying to go with this very cool like studio mic and it doesn't work, you know? Or it works, but somehow there's something not connected. But either way,
Welcome to the TRE live show.
Running performance secrets.
We have a great show today because we are having our guest is Kelly Starrett.
Yeah.
If you don't know Kelly Starrett by MobilityWOD fame,
Distorted.
robot voice.
Hold up.
What did you do?
What did I do? I don't think I did anything. Almost. Slightly robotic. Alright, last thing, just bring that mic up.
This one right here.
Yeah, then turn the black magic off.
Okay, how about this?
This should be...
I don't know why it would be distorted.
This should work. Always something.
That's the mic that the ASMR? What is ASMR?
I don't know. Something.
I don't want to ask.
Anyway.
But
Sounds
we are
like
having
gargling.
it's not like gargling. Have you tried turning it on and off again? I don't know.
There we go. Now it works.
There we
So much
go.
better. We like to consider ourselves on the avant-garde of coaching. It's one thing to just hear stuff, you know, from perfect sound.
Yes.
But if you can also interpret it from non-perfect sound, it will better prepare you.
Also, just note that we have 3 backup mic options in case this stuff happens. We're on the number 3 right now. So,
We
okay.
are on the number 3.
We have Kelly Starrett on today. The Gleam link is extra special. You should check it out. If there's a link at the bottom of the video, we are giving away not 1,
2,
but 2 of the Mobility 101 courses. That is a $500 value. It is an amazing course. Both of us have checked it out ourselves. We have our team coaches that have gone through it.
Yeah.
And it is a basis for a lot of, you know, some of the stuff that you've seen from us, like a lot of the PT related stuff that we have learned from Kelly.
It's really fun. Like Craig and I met at San Francisco CrossFit, which is Kelly Starrett's gym. Oh, he's repping. Look at that. And that's like a gym that Kelly and his wife Juliet started. We'll get a little bit more of the details there. And he traveled around teaching these in-person courses that were fantastic. I got my coaching chops going through those courses myself, and then just, you know, training with him for years on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
And he's put really all of this online and accessible to anyone. I think last year they said they had over 600 coaches go through it. But it's really, really fantastic stuff. So, because this is not for the faint of heart. This isn't like, I want to learn, like, read a BuzzFeed article of, like, top 5 squatting tips. This is like, I want to go deep. So, check it out. Enter. 2 of you guys are going to win. So, 2 of you guys really want to up your performance game.
We have one thing to talk about before we get Kelly on here.
Oh, yeah.
We got a package in the mail right before the show started.
Yeah, we're going right into Craig's Crazy Kitchen right here.
I don't promote this. It was sent to me by my parents.
I was curious because I saw this and I just picked this up and I was like, has Craig been watching like late night infomercials?
No, but my parents have. This is the Gourmet digital air fryer. I am so skeptical of something called an air fryer.
Yeah.
My parents went on a vacation and then their friends had one, then they bought one, and they got on the phone last
weekend. You get a free set of steak knives for that?
And my parents, are obsessed with Costco, and so they're like, it's only $45 at Costco. It's like on sale right now at Costco. You have to buy it. We talked about it for a good 30 minutes with them describing all the things they were cooking in it, and finally I was like, you know what? Fine. All right, I'll get it. Can we just stop the conversation?
Just to get you guys stop jabbering about it?
The truth is, since then, I have been waiting for it to come in because I actually want to see, is it like total crap or not? So after this...
Are they over it now? They're like, we've stopped using it.
No. They are like, they call me up and they're like, guess what we cooked in the air fryer today? So anyhow, parents, what can you do?
All right, so question.
We're going to do it after this.
Oh,
We're going to air fry some potatoes.
I was going to ask, what is the first thing that you're going to air fry?
I don't normally buy just regular potatoes. I don't cook with potatoes all that often, but I have a few potatoes.
Okay.
And a new spiralizer.
And the whole idea is I'm not using oil, so it's a low-fat thing.
I like oil.
I do too.
So if I'm going to drizzle some on there anyhow, I don't know.
Okay.
It's not. I don't deep fry anything. It's an air fryer is not a fryer. It's just a term. It's a convection oven. And I will say though that having an old oven and an old toaster oven, I don't have a convection oven that actually works. And so it could be interesting.
Well, I'm excited to try that out. I like that idea.
For $40, I like. Okay, cool. I'll try it. But it's very likely that this will be donated within a fortnight.
Totally. Let me see here. I got Mr. Kelly texting me real quick, and
tell me all the things.
He says, "Hold on, this is great. This is very appropriate." He says, "Standing by, one more deadlift single, and I'll be ready." So Kelly is at the gym. He's doing a little training. He's getting some hard reps in, and then he's going to come talk to us.
Let's say hi to some people. I see some very familiar names here. Carrie Hale, how's it going? Andy Warburton, don't touch anything. I know the mic. Don't worry, we're not going to touch anything. GDK Mouse, good to see you. Roger Gill, Dominic Schroet. Maria Nebas, good to see you. Roger Gill says, next time go 3, 2, 1. I know. Nicole Troy, how's it going, man? Andy Warbutton.
Yeah.
Did we see Troy in New York?
Yeah, we did. We saw Troy in New York.
He was in New York.
I know. I was going through some of those old videos the other day and got to see yours, Troy. Thanks for doing that for us.
Yeah.
Nicole says, I'll be signing up for the 3-month soon. I said that's the 3-month training club membership.
Good. Yeah.
Super stoked with that.
Jump in there.
Should I share with them our little program selector?
You can, sure.
Should I do that?
Is it ready to go?
It's pretty ready to go. Okay. You guys tell me if you want to do it. It's like, I've been like mad scientists last week mapping out this like tool that actually is like a lot of really good coaching in it. Like whether you're like racing, are you 16 weeks from your race, or you're 8 weeks from your race, or you're dealing with a knee injury, and it like sets up all these answers for you that you get immediately. And it also really shows you how you can use a training club, because like there's a lot of stuff in there, and sometimes it's hard on the outside to really understand how to use it. But when we start to work with you one-on-one, we can start to pull on that thread a little bit, and you can get a sense of like, oh, I can combine the running strength program with this, and then if I'm 20 weeks out for my marathon program, I can start with the 30-day challenge first and go for there. So I'll drop it in the comments.
I just dropped a new link while he was doing that. I beat him to it.
Sweet.
My project right now is our new mobile app.
Oh, you didn't even share my...
I thought
he totally hoisted my thing. Okay, well.
I thought he was like waxing on about it. I was like, I'm gonna put the mobile app link in there.
Okay.
The mobile app is live for some of our beta customers, and people are going through it. And yeah, we're all in there chatting and talking. So if you want to be on that beta, we're letting new people, sets of people in every week. So not everybody who signed up gets into it right away. And so we just let some more people in this morning. It is not for Android, it is for iOS initially, but Android will be out right after we fix all the bugs with iOS.
Yeah.
And
thank you, Carrie. That would really help.
Okay, go for it.
We each have our own project, guys. Here we go. Just kidding.
What?
It's not ready yet. I will post a little bit. There's like literally 1 or 2 things that I need to connect at the end. It's just like
the mobile app sign up sheet is ready. So go ahead and
sign up for the mobile app, because that's really good. I'm just getting you guys excited about this really cool program selector, which eventually will be in there.
Right, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we should get
let's talk to Kelly.
Mr. Kelly on.
All right. Would you like to assume the position?
Let's do it.
Okay. Can they hear us now? They can hear us.
Can they?
Yeah.
Hold up.
But we should be able to hear him.
Sound issue. So you guys can hear us right now. We're getting Kelly hooked up with
I have loopback
Skype.
going on.
It's always fun doing this. It's always a little bit different. It should be back now. Should be back now.
Oh,
Yes, there we go.
Oh, Kelly can hear us. Okay, good. Well, then at least we're in one way.
Use your hands.
How well can you mime? Microphone. Oh, I know what it is. Unplug this motherfucker.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's what's happening.
There we go. How about now?
There we go. Now we're just getting better.
Does that sound handsome?
Loopback audio too.
And then I gotta connect this. Hold on, we're getting there.
Can you hear him, Kelly?
I hear the magic.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
there we go.
I'm here. We're back.
And we're here.
That only took a little bit.
You know what, guys? You know what it was?
Wait, hold on.
It's working.
It's working.
Yeah, it's working.
Oh,
Okay.
fantastic.
We're back.
Good.
It's this damn mic, Craig.
Yeah,
It's
this
gonna
mic.
get too fancy.
Yeah,
We're
okay.
cursed with this Blue Yeti mic. It has
It doesn't like us.
mysteriously injured most of our live shows of late.
You know, troubleshooting tech stuff when you're live is just the most awesome feeling ever.
You need
Yeah.
Red Yeti.
Yeah.
Should have taken the red pill.
Seriously.
Oh my goodness. Kelly, thank you so much for taking the time and coming on here. You were just doing some deadlifting.
Well, you know, here's the deal. Let me just, full caveat here. I'm an endurance athlete. I self-identify as an endurance athlete. It just turns out I'm the biggest endurance athlete you've ever seen. And that kind of throws people for a loop sometimes because you're like, that guy's 105 kilos. That's 106 kilos, and that's there's not a lot of people who are over 230 going running and biking. So what's interesting now is my genetics, is my interests, everything is shifted into, you know, going longer. Is the question for me is how much strength and conditioning do I need to do to maintain my shapes and positions so I don't get ruined by my sport, right?
Yeah.
And turns out
Now,
my
Kelly,
sport is paddling and biking.
Yeah, and you've done a few different things over the year, and I kind of wanted to just like set the scene and hit on some of those events. I think there's one thing for coaches to like talk about stuff, but you're like kind of always in it, and everything from, you know, setting new like heavy powerlifting, you know, PRs to messing around with your Olympic lifting to then like doing the quad dipsy, which for you guys that don't know, like the quad dipsy is like it is
Gnarly.
It is a
Very gnarly.
28-mile event with, I think it's 2,000 feet of climbing per lap, or 24, 25.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Closing in on 10,000 feet of climbing, which is insane.
I
Especially
don't-
when
I
you're
don't know-
106 kilos.
And I don't know if it's fair to say I did it. It's more like it did me. I think that's really what we say. But you know what? We just wrapped up as we just did a 7-day. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Sufferfest. But we did a 7-day virtual bike race. So it's a bike race where you do 1 or 2 brutal pieces a day for 7 days. And what's really interesting about being a user is that it really helps me understand what the realities are of sort of twofold. One is, you know, the things that we talk about as coaches. Hey, are you sleeping? Did you eat? Are you eating enough? Are you eating enough when it matters the next day? Like every time I sort of drill down on one of these long races or a longer piece, and I think my next big piece that's hanging over my head is in May is a really long downwinder, like a 2-hour sprint downwinding canoe paddle, is that every time I sort of drop in, I'm like, wow, I can't fake eating and sleeping. I have to warm up. I have to do the soft tissue work. Otherwise, I think it's easy to get into sort of, I exercise, I use running for exercise. That's great. And it takes very little to maintain that. But the second one, I need to be able to do a big event or go fast for multiple days in a row, I cannot mess around. And I'm 45, turning 46 this year. I can't fake the details And that always reminds me of how important it is what we're doing. And it just keeps me in the loop. And then also I remember, I'm like, oh yeah, this is how cyclists feel. This is how runners feel.
Yeah.
You know, I'm crippled right now. Like, oh my gosh, you know?
Yeah. Hip flexors, low back, all the things, just kind of living in that position for so long.
So I was just drinking my green smoothie. Are you a green smoothie person?
Well, look, I
feel like there was a phase.
Well, this is what I think. I think you cannot eat enough vegetables. So if you're like, Kelly, how do you eat? I don't count macros. I feel like you should be a vegan, comma, with the best meat you can afford. So,
Yeah.
right, or like for me, that's how it works. And I'm not saying you can't be a vegetarian or vegan. It's just, what I'm saying is that it's really easy to be lazy on eating. And what we see is that green smoothie is an easy way to include more and diverse vegetables in your life. And for us, remember my doctoral work was looking at barriers to adherence. So what I'm really interested in, what are the behaviors that make this lifestyle or this health more sustainable? And that really starts to shape a lot of the different behaviors. So if I have to eat a pound of salad a day, well, you know, and I'm busy at work and drop my kids off, that's never going to go. But putting a bunch of those things in a blender, and that makes it easier for me to consume, right? And always, how do I come back to the basics? How much sleep am I getting? Am I eating enough vegetables? Right. And I don't know if you guys know this, but Juliet, my wife, and I have a contest who can eat the most vegetables every day. It starts over every day. And the only way you can win is to eat a vegetable for breakfast.
You guys have a lot of contests. You also explained to me hawkbuck when we were coming back from skiing the other day.
What is hawkbuck?
Well, hawkbuck is, look, you know, I'm not going to say I'm competitive. I'm not competitive. I'm not a psycho competitive. I like to compete. Like suddenly if you're like, how we're going to throw this rock into this bucket, I'm like, all right, this is world champion of the world, I'm in, right?
Yeah.
So hawkbuck is, when we drive on this one section of highway near us, there are so many hawks on the wires. And in our family, what we do is whoever spots the last hawk gets $1. And so whoever spots the next hawk gets $1. And so that dollar shifts around, and you're only as good as your last hawk. And we've added a new element to it, and that if you miss call, like you're like, hawk, and it's a crow, you are out around until someone calls a hawk, you can't play again. So, you know, look, I think what I want to get comfortable with. And
it was like a one-on-one, and the dollar never shifted.
It's good. It's really, that's the best.
You got that hawk eye.
I think what's really great is that, you know, we like to play games. We like to, you know, I guess what I'm really saying is, in this family, is I'm really good at losing, and I'm practicing being better at losing. And that's really what's happening. I'm getting comfortable falling apart every day. And whether that's going for a run and being limited by my technique today, or managing, you know, there's some way of kind of thinking about this where I'm like, oh, hey, failure is part of this process.
Yeah. So, Kelly, one of the things that I've always really appreciated from you, like, I came in, and some of you guys know this just from, you know, talking about, like, just with training, like, I started as a runner, like, I was like, you wanted me to do something 50 times, I would be like, I would step on any cracks, like, I would execute, like, I was that analytical executor, and there's a lot of runners out there like that. And when I started coming into training with you, like, I saw a sense of play that had somehow seeped out of my own training. Like, I was just, like, executing all the time. And if I performed my wattage or my numbers, I was happy. If I didn't, I was unhappy. And running this thing that was originally supposed to be this sense of play and adventure, like, kind of went away. Like, has that sense of play always been there for you? Like, has you always approached, like, in the things that you cared about in the past?
I don't think I did it as formally. And I certainly went down you know, when I paddle on the national team, you know, first workout is at 4. That means we were on the water at 4:30, you know, 3:37, warmed up, doing our prep, that, you know, have to be. And I sort of had this experience where, you know, really regimented, living off of a spreadsheet. And that I even think I didn't get as much of it as modern people did, because Google spreadsheets didn't exist. You know, maybe someone was on Excel, but a lot of people weren't coaching on Excel back in the day. We'd write it down on a notebook. But a lot of the joy gets sucked out of it. And for me, process is important. And the key is, look, I think the mistake is that people do a lot of poor density training, poor quality training. And when we train, it's super intense. The quality is there. It's very hard. But in between, like if you can't take the piss out of yourself, if you can't laugh and talk about yourself, that's peace. That's important. But also, we have forgotten how, like, there's a great book, The Exuberant Animal. And I feel like, especially in strength and conditioning, what we've done is said, okay, I know that I need to get this much work done in my running or my endurance work to have a good accomplishment. And you really do. If you're going to even compete at I feel like at the age group level or your local race, I mean, they're just so, the depth of talent is really immense. But if I'm even running a 5K for the first time or a 10K for the first time, I've got to work hard to get some good time in there. But the rest of it should be about exploring the capacities and wonders of my body. And that means that my strength and conditioning doesn't have to be as formal. I still need to get some work done, but there's a lot of opportunity to explore and to play. And so this movement practice is what strength and conditioning and a sport should be. And I think where we've gone haywire is that we have somehow confused strength and conditioning for actually doing a sport. And the thing about running or biking or swimming is because they're very technical, immensely technical, of course. And I still work on my running, I still work on my cycling, I still think about all these things. I don't ever take a stroke on the boat and not think about it. But they require a lot less coordination than Olympic lifting or kettlebell work or gymnastics works, so what ends up happening is that it's easy to sort of confuse, I just need to do more work. So I'm going to come into the gym and do more work versus, hey, I'm going to come into the gym or in my garage and I'm going to play around with end ranges. I'm going to find holes. I'm going to develop capacities. And I think we've sucked. What ends up happening is it feels like the gym is one more thing I have to do just to support my running instead of, wow, when I go to the gym, I leave and feel better. It's a modern movement practice, which is forced preparation. That's right. And I think where the real split has come is that we are starting to think of, sport-specific training, which is, hey, I do the strength and conditioning to support a sport, which means that can be really different things versus I try to get my whole nuts, my entire green smoothie in the gym. And that's a different idea. That's sort of sport preparation. So if you're not engaged in the sport, you can really take the gym and like, hey, we're going to have to work on your cardiorespiratory capacity and develop all these things so that you can then, when you decide to do a sport, but if you're actually running and doing all of the things that you need to do, the gym can be really about sort of cherry picking the dense nutrients and vitamins to support the running and also adding the play back in so that when you are free to run, which is the thing that we care about, you can do it easily. And that's the mistake. I think we've taken yoga and we turned it into another spreadsheet related item versus, hey, my running is very focused and formula and I need to get some hard work done there. And I can use the rest of this time to explore and fun and play and engage in a different way.
So, like, when you're, like, we get this question all the time, I'm sure you guys too, like, hey, I'm an athlete, I'm a cyclist, I'm a runner, I need a run-specific strength program. Like, what do you say to that? Like, is, like, are runners going to squat differently than a downhill skier or a kayaker or just a monk?
Yeah, well, I think what really matters is, let's not say get tagged into the movement or into the methodology. Let's say, hey, do you have access to your shapes? And now there's a lot of ways to say that, hey, and when I say shapes, I'm saying, does your hip flex? Does your hip extend? And what I can do is use the gym to restore my normal mechanics that I'm going to then spend as I specialize in running. And look, if we're clear, if everyone, I just want to be super clear about the audience here, running is the one thing that makes us human. That is it. If you can't run, don't enjoy running, aren't technically a runner, you can't run technically, you can't go run barefoot, you have a hole in your humanity. That's how important running is, right? And what I think is, the problem is we shouldn't have to do a ton. Like, kids don't mobilize their glutes and activate and get the warmth of the core. They go sprint, right? So what happens? Well, what happens is that our modern selves, all the sitting, the driving, all these other things, we don't sit on the floor. Like, for example, if you want to be a better runner, just stop sitting in a chair at home at night. Just there at night. Just sit on the floor. Watch TV, answer your texts, sit on the floor. Tell me what happens to your hips after a week of that. You know, what you're going to see is, holy crap, getting up and down, moving my hips. So because we sort of have some of these adaptation errors, like, for example, a huge adaptation error is I go run, and then I stop moving after I run.
Right.
I go back to work, I get my run in, then I start my day, or I run at lunch. That's not how it's supposed to be. I should run, and then I should be moving, which means standing or walking or fidgeting or getting up and down or just moving a little bit to decongest. And what ends up happening is I redline, even if it's an easy recovery tempo run, and then all of a sudden I stop. My body's going to react differently to that stress, even if it was, you know, hey, Kelly, I just need you to run for, 40 minutes is 70%. Like, I still am going to need to do the things that makes my body react to that. So what ends up happening then is that I lose some of my native abilities and native shapes required for running. And a lot of us who come to running late in life end up don't even having the range of motion required to run effectively. That's right.
Yeah, right.
And what I'm saying is, and look, we're not talking about sprinting here. Boy, sprinting needs a lot bigger range of motion. I'm talking about running effectively, but most of us don't have the range of motion required. And so we end up developing all these workarounds because the human being is so incredible. Ergo, I end up either running inefficiently, or I end up with stiffness, or God forbid, I end up getting tweaked or injured, something hurts. And what should be happening is that I'm using the modern strength and conditioning program, swinging some kettlebells, doing some planks, working on my push-ups, spending time in a lunge shape. It doesn't take much to restore my God-given positions, my native shapes, so that running is more effortless. I don't have to warm up and mobilize.
Well, what has changed for you as you've gotten older and you've been in this game for a long time? Have you seen like the proportion of time that you spend doing sports prep stuff in the gym for like a long event? Has it changed, or has the type of work that you've been doing for yourself changed?
Yeah, it has a little bit. I think when we started, we got involved. I came out of an Olympic tradition of a sport, which was more sport, right? And lifting or movement was secondary to the sport. Like, oh, we can't do that. Well, it's all about, and we paddled twice a day, 300 days a year. That was our MO, right? And that's what it takes, I end up really badly injured. Right? Like, oh, okay. So when we discovered, and there sort of was the inflection point of what we'll say is modern strength and conditioning, is that suddenly we realized, boy, when we started our gym, San Francisco CrossFit, we're in between our 14th and 15th year, or officially 13th, 14th year in this space. You couldn't buy a kettlebell in San Francisco. So just let that sink in for a second.
Yeah.
Now you can go down to Walmart and buy kettlebells, right?
I remember trying to find my first one in Seattle. I couldn't find one.
I had to drive to Santa Cruz to a Play It Again used sports center that imported kettlebells from China. That's where we broke,
That's so funny, yeah.
So
I bought it at
it's
easy
to lose the narrative about, like TRX, that didn't even exist, So, so what ended up happening was that we all became sort of enamored. Wow, I don't know how to Olympic lift. I don't deadlift heavy. Maybe you did some of this in high school, but we were suddenly turned loose to try to become competent. And what ended up happening is a lot of us focused our energies back into the gym. Let's become skilled movers again. And what it turned out is none of us were skilled movers. We all had big engines, but not skilled movers. And we weren't strong. And more importantly, we weren't coordinated. So now, fast forward a decade of experience, and what we're seeing is that if it's a standalone practice, a sports preparation practice is enough. But again, the mistake has been that we're still thinking, as long as I just go to Orange Theory and work really hard, that'll help my running. And that's sort of true, because we made that mistake with triathlon. Like, oh, I can't just run. I'm going to now do some cycling and some swimming, and that'll help my running.
Right.
So now,
too far.
Yeah, so the evolution has been, well, how much of this wonderful gym life is required to support my sport? And that is where we're getting better.
Yeah, so I want to go back to some of the earlier days of MobilityWOD, because that means a certain thing, but it's not necessarily a common word. Like, you don't see WOD in the running world a little bit. In WOD from CrossFit terms was workout of the day. And Kelly, I wanted you to talk a little bit about what got you inspired to start MobilityWOD and what that like first year of MobilityWOD looked like.
What was happening was that, I was becoming more and more competent at learning how to run. Like, for example, here's the come clean moment. I could do everything. I could sprint and cycle and run and jump, but I couldn't run without knee pain. Like, hey, we're gonna run 400s, I'd be like, damn it, here comes the knee pain. Oh, we're gonna sprint, no problem. We're gonna play frisbee, no problem. Play basketball, no problem. Running 400, knee pain. Well, it turns out, wait for it, I was a terrible runner.
Yeah.
So early in my day, it was really about learning these skills. And what I realized is that as I was in physical therapy school, at the same time the gym was opening and opened, I was a student, I was suddenly seeing the missing abilities, the missing coordination, the missing movement skill in fundamental positions and shapes like planks. And I remember, like, for example, a kid coming in as a patient, and he was 12, and his dad's like, my kid is the next Barry Zito. He is elite. You don't understand. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. He has pain. Can I see him do a plank? And the kid couldn't even hold himself up at the top of a push-up. I'm not talking about a push-up. He's 12, and he's the next coming of the greatest thrower, and he looked like a broken, saggy horse, and just no one had connected the dots for him. And I was like, okay, so there's a movement skill here. But then people were trying to put their arms over their head in downward dog, and they couldn't do that. And what I saw was that, boy, if we are fundamentally missing these basic shapes, ranges of motion that aren't supernatural, that are foundational to being human, what every physician thinks is normal, what every physical therapist is trained is normal humanness. Not I can do the splits. That's not normal range of motion. But like, does my hip even come to 90 degrees or not? Yes or no? And what we saw was that people were coming in, training really hard, didn't have those shapes. And what we found is that where people, so hang on,
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to frame this because and I think this is important because when most runners are in front of a physical therapist, it's like too late, right? To a certain degree, like the car has crashed, they're injured.
You're on fire.
Rather than you sitting in your office waiting for people to come to you, you wanted to go out and meet people where they're at.
And what we hadn't said was, hey, position is really important. We did positional drills. How many running drills have you done your whole life? Oh, I don't know, tens of thousands of skill exercises. But no one was looking at underneath like, hey, I noticed that you couldn't get your car into third gear today. That's really weird. And your wheel only turns to the left and your handbrake is on. So maybe, even though you're a Ferrari, we could improve your positional capacity. And what we found was that when we had injuries, what we noticed always was that there was a movement compensation related to missing range of motion. And when we restored people's range of motion, right, then we improved their performance. And when we improve their range of motion, we improve their performance. So what we realized is, well, we can get ahead of this. Why don't we start programming? And no one was using the word mobility. If you look at search, no mobility, stretching. We show up, mobility workout of the day, and suddenly mobility means nothing now. It's like a stretch surrogate, right? It's a stereoisomer of the word stretch. So the idea here is saying, hey, why don't we put, like, the reason we mobilize and the reason we use our tools is to improve your shapes and your positions. That's the only reason, right? Maybe I can improve the efficiency, but ultimately, you have to come back and have a movement practice or be under load or swing a kettlebell or work on your running technique. But if you can't flex your ankle or your hip doesn't go where your leg doesn't go behind you, you are going to work out a solution to that movement problem that is going to make you slower and a less effective athlete. And then when your hip hurts or your ankle hurts or something hurts, what you're thinking of is, oh, I need new shoes. When really what I'm thinking is, I don't think you even have the raw materials to be able to get into the shapes that you did. And the mistake is that human beings are so robust, we are such incredible animals, that we can buffer really poor positions for a long time before it becomes a problem.
Yeah, I think you've always said is that pain is a lagging indicator. By the
That's
time
right.
pain shows up, I've already done this damage, and now all of a sudden I have to dig myself into the
Or let's say this. Let's not even say damage. Maybe you're not actually injured. So let me ask. Let's propose this to your running group here watching. How many of you guys are in pain right now? How many of you have some kind of pain?
Right.
Guys, let us know in the comments if you're dealing with any type of pain or injury.
I mean, people are ready.
Not injury, pain. So what we're
Just
seeing
pain.
is, hey, pain is a really important tool that tells me something about, are my tissues ready for this load? Am I compensating? And that's and are the same people. Now here's the second question: does that pain stop you from running? And the answer, guess what, is hell no. Nothing gets in the way of that train. So what we wanted to make sure is that we started to say, hey, look, pain can be a really important tool to let me know that, hey, I've exceeded my capacities for the day. I don't have access to this range. I'm super stressed. I drank 3 bottles of wine last night. I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter. But it definitely doesn't mean I'm injured. If you cannot run, you cannot occupy your role in society, even self-defined, then you're injured. If you can't do your job, you're injured. If you can't occupy your role in your family, you're injured. Everything else isn't an injury. It's pain, and it's a pain-related movement disorder. So the first thing that we can say, and we know that there are a lot of things that turn the volume up and turn the volume down on pain: stress, hydration, nutrition, poor movement prep, right? Previous injury history. Dude, have a baby. Let me know how that goes for you, right? You're gonna be a disaster, you know. So the key here, you know, go ahead and take a red eye to the East Coast. Get up. Let me know how your run goes. You're gonna suck.
I know.
So there's a lot of things in there that are complicated. So what we say is like, hey, let's begin to simplify what appears to be a very complex system. And what we can always identify is how efficiently can I get into these normal shapes for humans. Like, here's our test. You want to see if you're a full human or not? And I'm just saying full human, right? Not a bad person. Put your feet together and squat all the way to the ground and keep your heels on the ground. And that's 1 or 0. That's one. And literally, I'm like, you're going to squat down your heels on the ground. People are like, oh, I can't do that. I'm like, what? You can't take a poop in the woods? Like, what do you mean? You can't have dinner in Thailand? You can't build a fire? Like, what do you mean you can't get in that shape? And here's the deal. If it's not your fault, if no one ever said it's important. And now we're at a place in our lives as coaches and as athletes where we don't want to add one more thing. What we can do is begin to integrate this. So, for example, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, if you find yourself in San Francisco, come to my class as my guest. Come on in. I'll show you what a modern movement practice looks like. You don't have to go do yoga and have to lift weight. Like, come, and I'll show you that during our warm-up and play, you will be able to find your end ranges of hips. We'll touch your ankles. We'll flex your big toes, right? We'll move in a way that allows us to run a diagnostic every day. And for me, that diagnostic, for example, begins with a squat. How am I squatting today? Because guess what? Coming off the bike after 9 workouts in 7 days dude, we rode 128 miles of bike intervals in 7 days. So just, and guess what? My squat sucked. And I am the squat man, and I couldn't squat for crap because I looked like I had just been on a bike for 7 days, right? So that's okay. It's a moving target, and that's the key here. It's a moving target. That's all right.
And it's fluid. It's going to go up and down. So
that's
just
right.
Coming in from our community here, asked your question about pain. Brian says me. John says I'm in pain. Rachel Harper, me. CDK Max, first time hamstrings. Benjamin, lateral hip pain. Mikhail, yep.
Tight calves, yep.
Welcome to being an athlete.
Somebody had asked, somebody's like saying, hey, I have your book. I've seen your videos. They follow us. Where do we start? Like, what's the shape? What's the, like, what's step number 1?
Well, step number 1 is let's put some fires out, right? If you're in pain, let's talk about that first. And there's some really great tools that we can use to improve that. So what we're always thinking, if I have a hot spot, don't worry about your range of motion. Let's focus on improving the local environment in the area that's painful. So even though my stiff quads may have pulled on the insertion of my patella, and now I have a little knee pain, a little runner's pain, right? The real problem is my stiff quads and my inability to extend my hip, and now I'm overstriding. That's the real problem, but we'll get there. In the meantime, the thing that's bugging you every time you go down the stairs is your knee. So let's talk about getting ahead of that. And we can do things like compress that. We can do some easy tissue scraping, get a spatula and some lotion and just put some blood flow back in there. We can voodoo floss that. We could get on a Mark Pro and decongest it. We could get in the boots. There are so many ways and things that I can do to improve the local area and, more importantly, desensitize it. Because you're not injured. You're sensitized. those tissues are suddenly saying, hey, something's going on locally at this spot. And remember, where the rats get in is not necessarily where the rats chew, but that painful spot is the thing. So let's go ahead and get ahead of that.
I love these analogies. It's so
right?
good.
So what we can do is say, hey, look, and it turns out, and there's a real simple model, hey, I need to improve the local area so I can reperfuse and decongest. That means get the garbage out, bring the groceries back in. Let's desensitize. Let's tell our brain it's not a threat. Let's get some more normal pain-free motion there if we can. And what we end up seeing is, okay, that's desensitized. The next step of that process is, hey, let's work upstream. So work upstream and downstream. So here's an example. My daughter is playing, she plays water polo, my 10-year-old.
Yep.
She's now training MMA, right? And she's like, Dad, my foot was hurting at MMA. And I'm like, okay. I was like, well, what's right above your foot? She's like, my calf. And I was like, well, did you do anything for your calf? And she was like, no. And I was like, didn't we have a talk about your calves being tight the other day? She's like, yes. And she's like, and if my knee hurts, because I'm stiff, I was like, well, what's above your knee? She's like, my quads. And this is my 10-year-old. So if my 10-year-old can connect the dots that inefficiency in the quads might cause knee pain and stiffness in the calf might cause foot pain, it's like those things are connected via themselves, right? They are directly connected. So what we can begin to say is, hey, let's get the flame out on the spot, because that's where our brain is focusing, and then that thing really hurts. It hurts. Like here's a great example. I'm not immune to this. So I'm 46. We're up in Tahoe. I'm like, we're gonna sprint some hills. I was in some shoes that someone gave me. They're like, why don't you test these shoes out? And I was like, okay. My feet kind of hurt in these shoes a little bit as I'm walking around, but I'm like, oh, fine. I ended up creating a brutal plantar fasciitis problem for me. Was poorly warmed up, jumped out of the car, did some sprinting, and guess what? I'm like walking around crippled. It turns out that training for this bike race made my calves super stiff. Yeah. Then I got off the cycle and let me sprint like the 46-year-old adult I am at 235 pounds.
Up a hill,
not warmed up in some stupid shoes. Bam! And I was like, oh. Yeah. No one's immune to doing stupid stuff. But, and that's okay. I have a plan. And my plan is, oh boy, what's upstream? So I literally have my daughter stand on my calves. My calves are stiff. She stands on them, and boom, that foot pain goes away. So even though it was sensitized, what I do, I compressed it, I scraped it, I worked on upstream tissues, I took it easy, I just rode the bike and kept my feet on the ground. Running hurts. So it's okay to make these mistakes. Yeah. What we want to do is make sure that, hey, what was the after action? I was doing a lot of cycling. I hadn't taken a look at my calves. I didn't warm up very well. I was a little bit tired. I was running in stupid shoes I didn't know about, right? Check. I now have a rationale for understanding how that happens so I can avoid it the next time.
Awesome. So can you talk a little bit, we're going to be giving away your Mobility 101 programs. Can you beat you to it? Can you talk a little bit about what's in that course and how does that progress towards those things that you guys offer?
Yeah, what we realized when we started this whole project almost 10 years ago now, we're year 9, is that I made a video a day for a year. And just said, hey, let's level everyone up. Because people were coming in, they're like, my leg hurts. And I'm like, well, why? And they were like, I don't know, it's my leg. And like we didn't have any sensitivity about what was happening. And so
when you were filming it, sorry to keep jumping in, but it was you and just your iPhone. And like the first or second video was like you're skateboarding in the hood.
I remember that.
I live like
there was no iPhone video. That was on a Casio camera.
Oh, I love it.
The iPhone didn't have a video, and when we first started, the iPhone didn't have video. Then the video didn't even upload to YouTube yet. Like we were using like sticks, and I would rub the sticks together, and I would put mud on there, and then it would go to the internet. So
your skateboard had square wheels.
That's right. So we've come a long way very quickly, and what we realize is that, man, we have done a really good job of teaching people tools and systems. And a tool is a run program. It's a kettlebell model. It's Olympic lifting. It's MMA. It's right. But what we weren't doing a good job of is giving people basic tenets of saying, this is what's required for everybody. Here's how we can improve and restore positions and put flames out. And so we started teaching, this is over 10 years now, we started teaching a basic course, which is our movement and mobility course. And honestly, movement is the outcome and output of mobility. So when we define mobility, we're saying, do you have the movement skills right? The motor control, the software, that's what a movement skill is. And then do you have the regular hardware? Do you have enough tissue length, tissue capacities to actually express what your brain is trying to do? So there's two components there. One is, do I have the shapes? Does my body get into the shape, yes or no? And two, do I have the software that runs it? And that's how we define mobility. And remember, those things are moving targets, right? They're just like, go ahead and run a marathon. Let me know how you move the next day. You're going to not look great. You're going to look like your worst self. Come out of a season of soccer, and you're going to really not look like a well-balanced athlete. You're going to look like a soccer player. Great. That's why we go back to the gym or have a gym in our garage so we can restore these positions and shapes. And what we realized is that, boy, we needed to get everyone leveled up. So this course, this 101 course, is really the intro. It's the companion course to our really gigantic 500-page book. And it's easy to understand. And so if you're interested in this, I think we've got 2 courses for you. And what we're going to do in that course, it's not for coaches. It's not just for athletes. It'll give you a real systems approach to help you to be able to understand this movement capacity, movement language, and you'll literally be able to see compensation anywhere, and you'll be able to with your friends and yourself, be able to put out the flames. And that's really what this is about, right? Just getting us back to level so that we can go run like maniacs. There is no other thing. We should be able to warm up a little bit, like walk fast for 5 or 6 minutes, and then go run our brains out, and then move around a little bit, and that should be enough. But unfortunately, that's not the world we live in. You know, you shouldn't be worried about your shoes. You shouldn't be worried about, is Mercury in retrograde? You know, like, have I had the right, like, forget that. Like, stop being precious. You should be able to. So in our house right now, we're all training for a Spartan race in June, the 9 mile, right?
You've done a couple of these now.
I have. I've done 3. And I love the Spartan race because it's not just running, right? And it's not just running flat. I get to go over stairs and run up hills. They're super fun. And so with my daughters, we're trying to get them spun up, and the goal is to try to run 100 miles before June, 1 mile at a time, right? And I've incentivized them with money. You run 100 miles before June, it's $500, and $500 to a 10-year-old is a lot of money. So what we do though is we try to say, hey, it's no big deal. Let's go run a mile. So we just we just run slowly, we nose breathe, and we just run a mile. And there are a couple days where I have to run miles back to back. One kid runs in, and then she has to do homework after run a mile. But what we're trying to do is just make it dumb and easy. Running should just be effortless. You shouldn't have to warm up to go jog a mile with your kids. You should be able to do that. That's always my reference. And sometimes I feel like dog crap during that first part of that mile because I'm wrecked. Right? It's a nice diagnostic.
And how much time, you know, for the average person, how much time are they putting in to go through that 101 course?
It could be 12 hours or so, but you can do it over 6 weeks. You can do it over 7 weeks.
Sorry, 12 hours total, but like per day you're putting in 15 minutes or something like that, 20 minutes?
Oh yeah, easy. 7 minutes, 10 minutes. You know, it's really designed to be accessible to everyone. Watch a video, answer some questions that just reinforce your learning. I think it'll make it easy for you to see and understand your body. And really, this is if someone's interested, it's pretty fun. We're pretty proud of the course. And if people are watching, if you're a native Chinese speaker, it's now in Chinese, and if you're a native Spanish speaker, it's also in Spanish.
There you go.
I know. I saw that too.
I've been meaning to brush up on my Chinese.
I know. So many of us, just get like buried in the specifics of things. You've always had this ability to look at a broader, bigger picture. Is that something that you've like had to develop, or is that just kind of always been there?
It's a good question. I think what I always want to understand, you know, people said things to me like, gymnastics makes good athletes. And I was always like, why? Just coordination, balance? You know, what is it about that? You know, what is it that about Olympic lifting or these sports? What I realize is the universal language under there is position. It's body shape. It's the movement shapes. And what's nice about, you know, I think my only skill set in the world, besides being able to eat lots of cookies, is that I'm really good at pattern recognition. And so what I was able to do, because I sort of came to consciousness in this explosion of all of the gymnastics coming with kettlebells, coming with powerlifting, Olympic lifting, with sports skills, is that I really saw the connectedness of these positions and shapes. And once you understand that the shoulder is the shoulder, the hip is the hip, the shoulder and the hip actually don't do that many things, believe it or not. And when you suddenly understand the root patterns and shapes of the body, you can see how everything is connected. And I'm not talking about in a like general, like, yes, you're breathing hard here and you're breathing hard there. I'm saying specifically, I can predict how you're moving and how you will move by how you're moving right now. And what that means is that I was able to see the shapes and relationships. So how do I know you're a good athlete? Well, ultimately, a good athlete will pick up any skill very quickly because they have this movement coordination language that allows them to integrate and use all of their experience towards a new skill. But the other idea is I say, hey, here's a position that we think is really important. Like, you don't run with a braced spine. You need to organize your spine so that you can transfer energy while you run, because running in a flex position it's not easy to breathe very well there. It's not easy to swing my arms there, right? If my pelvis is stuck in a weird position, my hips don't work very well, right? And so what we start to see is, hey, there are certain shapes that translate really well, and if I can practice those shapes in this movement practice, then it turns out that my body will remember those coordination of those shapes, and I'll be able to transfer that to another sport. So what ends up happening then is I'm now, because I get to do this a lot, and I get to work with Olympians and Tour de France cyclists and world-class sprinters, I'm really good at seeing their movement compensations, how they're leaking force or being less efficient, and that informs me about where I think we can improve their shapes and powers, and that works on a continuum, whether I'm talking about kids and their knee pain or Osgood slaughters, or I'm talking about an Olympic lifter who passes out when he's Olympic lifting, or an elite track athlete who's rounding his back at the start. You can see all of these things because a formal movement language like push-ups, like pull-ups, like lunge, slows everything down and simplifies this complex system. And that's why I want people to ultimately have some kind of body control movement practice that goes beyond their sport. You guys are ninjas. You can see someone run and be like, oh, you're missing hip extension. Oh, hey, you're overstriding. Hey, look, hey, see how your shoulder's like this? You don't have any internal rotation of the shoulder. But the rest of us, we need this other correlate movement language that helps us understand. Well, it just turns out that correlate movement language doesn't have to be sophisticated. Can you swing a kettlebell? Can you squat in a goblet squat? Can you do a pull-up? Can you do a push-up? Can you couch stretch? Boom, I've just figured out all your problems.
Right.
I think what's interesting and is a challenge right now for a lot of runners is that when they go see someone or they talk to their coach, they're getting a different language from the language you're speaking. They're being told that they have an IT band issue because their glute medius isn't firing, right? Or their hamstring isn't firing.
I'm sorry, that's us. That's the physical therapist problem. We have messed everyone up. That is just horse shit. And
I just
I'm
wanted to get him fired up. I know.
I'm so sorry that we think in those terms. That is, the real key is that we rarely see. So let me ask you this: how strong are babies or like toddlers? Not toddlers. How strong are elementary school kids? Super strong?
I mean, proportion.
No, I don't know.
Do they have any problems running? Do you think running is a limited of weakness?
Yeah.
So I guarantee all of us are strong enough to run because we're bipedal. Maybe there's some people who are super detrained off the couch who are programmers. But I guarantee you that they could run 100 meters. And then when their technique falls apart, they run again.
Oh, yeah.
But the issue for us is that what we haven't done a good job of is saying, hey, here's what we think is important technique. What instead we say to people is, everyone can run. Running is egalitarian. It's your birthright. Just do it. Just suffer. It doesn't matter. Like is that how you learn to drive? Is that how you learn to do any technical skill? At what sport did you not have a coach in as a youth kid? Name one. Here's some soccer ball, kids. Good luck. We're scrimmaging it too. Like that doesn't happen. You have a coach. So why don't we apply that same thinking to running? Remember, when you had did a sport in middle school or high school, did you just go play? Like, here's some pads, kids. We're going to play football. No, it's drill, scrimmage. Drill, test the drills. And so why don't we apply that same level of thinking to any of our endurance sports? Because we are so robust at handling crappy positions and shapes for so long that we fail to see the utility of efficiency and economy because our bodies are so able to compensate. And we have a generation of coaches who've never been taught a movement language. They've been taught a volume language or a programming language, and that's the mistake.
I love the way you put that.
Yeah, so Kelly, we could obviously keep going on this for a long time.
We should have you back on.
We should definitely get back. But just quickly before we get you out of here, like, what are great places for people to go if they want to learn more about you and MobilityWOD?
Well, you, Nate Helming's on MobilityWOD a fair bit. And what I would recommend is, take a look at our Instagram channel or even Twitter, and you'll see the kinds of programming we do. And what we really believe in is that if you just commit to 10 to 15 minutes a day of noodling on a shape or developing capacities or restoring your efficiency 6 or 7 days a week, you can make massive gains in the efficiency and restoring your movement end ranges. So it's just easier to do what you do. And a lot of our thinking now is about how do we give people back their range of motion in a way that isn't one more stinking thing you have to do. Don't get me wrong. The only thing I care about you doing is running. That's it. So let's put that as our main course, and then let's say, hey, where do we fit the rest of this in? So, hey, maybe are you getting 10,000 steps a day walking? Well, if you're not moving around 10,000 steps and you're running, you're going to get screwed up. Why? Because you're not decongesting the tissues. 10,000 steps is the baseline movement required to have a healthy, normal expression of your body. So that I can do that a lot of different ways. You and guys are standing, I'm standing, we're all fidgeting. All the time where I'm on my feet moving a little bit or perching, that's all movement. So that counts. So what we want to do is make it easier for people to have their lives. And if you're committing to run a half marathon or even a 10K or 5K, you shouldn't have to give up so much of your relationships, and you shouldn't have to give up things to make that happen.
Yeah.
So before you go to bed, put on MobilityWOD. We have an app we program for you, and all you need for our recovery is a roller and a ball. And if you have a roller and a ball, I guarantee you I can make you faster.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that. And right there, that's amazing.
Yeah. Well, Kelly, thanks again.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on.
I'll see you guys on the trails.
Yeah, that's right. It's always great. Hey, we'll catch up soon. Thanks a lot, Kelly.
Good to see you guys. Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. Yeah. All right. We're going to pull up our
main scene. Bring that over.
Guys, Kelly is a beast. I feel like when he's talking, I'm just like entranced. I'm like, oh my God, there's so much good information coming. I hope you guys had a chance to check him out on Instagram. He's on YouTube as well as MobilityWOD. MobilityWOD?
Yeah, at MobilityWOD.
At MobilityWOD.
Go to MobilityWOD.com.
And we'll be doing that. If you are watching this and it's not live, we'll be doing that drawing for his programs next week. So definitely enter with the green link below. Right now, we're going to do the drawing for
our last week, which is a pair of Gooder sunglasses.
Okay.
And
do it.
Getting these names pulled up right now. Fantastic. So we have.
Awesome.
We have Amy Keller. We're sending some sunglasses to Dublin.
There we go.
we gotta give our national people a little credit. Amy, congratulations! You're a winner of a pair of Gooder sunglasses or giveaway from last week. And
Jesus
Alonso Mina from Spain.
Fantastic.
You too are gonna be the winner.
Do it.
Of a pair of things, because we love shipping things internationally.
That's what we do.
It just makes us happy.
Guys, thank you so much for signing on this week. I know we're a little bit over.
Yeah.
You know what? When you have good guests on, you just can't squelch it before it's done. Thank you so much and we'll see you guys again next week.
Next week.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys.
Peace.